McLaren is quite handy at building spiders, isn't it? It's got a great track record. Because all its road cars are built around an ultra-stiff carbon tub, there's no reinforcement come cabrio time. So the only extra weight is what's added by the folding hardtop, and because McLaren's version is an elegant electric 46 kg operation, that's the only penalty. You get hardtop refinement at the press of a button, or full-blown intimacy with whatever bi-turbo V8 your chosen McLaren is pushed along by. With zero compromises. And this is the cheapest, least powerful McSpider yet, those being relative terms, yes. But the 570s, even in Boulevardy or Spider guys, remain stupendously fast for an entry-level supercar. It generates 562 imperial horsepower, 443 pounds-feet of torque, and it's good for 0-62 miles per hour in 3.4 seconds, and feels faster still. Such is the potency, the sense of pent-up pressure when those turbos come on boost, and the lightness of the car. McLaren quotes 1,359 kilograms dry and 1,486 kilograms ready to go with 90% super unleaded on board. That's 300 kilos less than the all-wheel drive Audi R8 V10 Plus Spider. Convertibles aren't really about speed though, are they? No, they're about showing off, primarily. So you'll want a decent top-end whack to name-check, if not to verify. McLaren quotes two top speeds, 204 miles per hour with the roof erected, 196, presumably quite noisy, miles an hour with it hidden in its burrow behind the seats. When it's playing coupe, incidentally, you can use that 52-liter hidey hole as a second boot. The 150-liter cavern in the nose is really generous too. McLaren thinks through practical supercars freakishly well. You said it would be deafening with the roof or at speed. Is this not a very aerodynamic roadster? The 570s actually makes for a cracking roadster. The two-piece roof motors into the rear deck in 15 seconds, at speeds of up to 25 miles per hour. Convenience is the key to happy drop-top motoring. It's something the MX-5 has had nailed for decades. If opening the roof and getting it back up again when a deluge arrives is child's play, you're more likely to indulge it more of the time. Roof ups is one thing, buffeting is another. Again, the 570s does the job. Obviously the car is clever at managing airflow, just look at those gorgeous door intake tendons and the 12mm taller rear spoiler to create the downforce lost by the Spider ditching flying buttresses. But aero for speed's sake is one thing. Keeping the cockpit free of turbulence until you're deeply into motorway speeds is a brilliant ability to have in the locker. Because it encourages keeping the roof down. Just one note of caution. Don't, whatever you do, raise the rear window to play windbreak. While that trick makes an R8 Spider far quieter on the motorway, in the McLaren it has the opposite effect, acting like a sail between the humped buttresses and summoning deafening drumming. Save the rear window button for when it's inclement outside, but you fancy letting more noise and hapless passerby comments into the cabin. Speaking of noise, McLaren's nemesis, its enemy within, always has been. This 3.8-liter bi-turbo V8 doesn't have the fine note tuning of the 720's larger engine, itself hardly operatic, and at times the 570's flips between sounding like an angry four-pot tarmac rally car, a wet fart, and, as it rampantly bears down on its 8,000 RPM redline, finally a furious supercar. It's a bassy, buzzy sound. McLarens are often described as sounding industrial, as if the V8 is too busy developing masses of power to be distracted making truly exotic noises. Same story here, it's not unpleasant, but not addictive either. This particular Curaçao Blue McSpider was fitted with the optional sports exhaust, by the way. It's a 3,370-pound option, and one you could probably do without. But we'll come back to options spending in a while. Tip of iceberg. Even with the roof down, you're only faintly aware of turbos spinning and chuffing, and there's greater tone and depth to the soundtrack than a 911 turbo's hoarse whoosh. But if you're an absolute audiophile, you need an R8 Spider. V10 V8. Audi has an atmospheric engine in every sense. If you're more excited by how refined the 570s is with its roof fault than the noise its V8 makes, this must be a pretty dour supercar. It isn't, don't worry. And I'm not falling back on the usual cliches of aren't the doors cool and ready set your change lights for the win. The 570's Spider is just sensational to drive. It's mind-pulverizingly fast, but speed is such a tiny slice of its repertoire. It has spectacular mechanical traction for a rear-drive supercar with such potency, but even once you've reached the limits, the systems have been beautifully set up. As you can see from Mark Riccioni's lovely photos, it rained while we were snapping the 570s, but never did the car feel like it was bleeding away power for the sake of holding its grip on the road. It will continue to accelerate violently even as the traction control light blinks. No juddering, no stutter. It's enormously confidence-inspiring. And because you're located so low and forward in the car with the usual irreproachable visibility, the 570s isn't intimidating. You're struggling for criticisms, aren't you? Not quite. And I'm afraid it's the usual McLaren elephant in the room. There are niggles with these cars, and though McLaren is a young company without a range of hatchbacks and crossovers to share development costs with, this is far from the first woking product that's thrown up road tire pressure warnings, failed to start, had its iris touchscreen freeze and suffered from disobedient windows while on loan to Top Gear. In a P1 limited edition spaceship, fair enough, you might say. But this car's supposed to be a 911 turbo competitor. It isn't a 9th or 10th car in the garage of a billionaire. It's intended for everyday use. So much of the design is brilliant at making that daily supercar dream a reality, but the gremlins eroded again. This car's roof also leaked rainwater. It collected in the seams where the windows met the roof and then soaked my shoulder and puddled in my crotch every time I braked. People look at you when you clamber out of a supercar. They think you're somebody. You try exiting with a nether region's damp patch and maintaining an air of cool. Thought not. Update: McLaren gave our 570s Spider a thorough inspection following this review and discovered the fault within a matter of hours. It found one of the roof seals had been disturbed by an over-rigorous balayer during the car's last clean. That caused the tiny imperfection that let water in. Isn't that was used to be known as supercar character? McLaren is asking £164,750. That's a fully spec Star 8 V10 Plus Spider or a Mercedes-AMG GTC Roadster and tens of thousands in change for the 570s, so you judged how much you'd put up with for character's sake. This particular car carried 62,140 pounds in optional stuff. Almost 39,000 pounds of that was carbon fiber body and interior flourishes. An optioned-up VW Golf R, just in carbon. Flipping heck. It's fine for McLaren to target the boutique luxury goods market. Its supercars are spectacular devices. But R8s and 911s start first time. That's when you earn the right to go ultra bespoke. Ultra fast, a bit flaky, super refined, not much of a singer. What's the Spider's best bit? None of the above. As usual, McLaren has made its Sport Series machines enjoyable way below their limits. The steering is so perfectly weighted, ideally geared, and able to communicate so much about the surface, the grip and your proximity to its limits. But does it get distracted by a camera and need constant watchful parenting? Absolutely not. It's been said before, but bears repeating, the 570s behaves like a near 600 bhp Lotus. There's the same sense of utter stiffness in the structure and similarly delectable steering that you savor leaning on. A truly great chassis eggs you on to push it harder, but stays entertaining when it's not being thrashed, and that's exactly what McLaren's nailed here. It's miles more engaging and involving at a sane speed than an R8, but because you're so immersed in the messages the car's giving you, it's also more confidence-inspiring than the Quattro drive Audi. Some achievement that, once you start breaking down each element, there's loads to revel in. Tactile gear shift paddle clicks and a dual clutch gearbox worthy of McLaren's seamless shift marketing. It's a bit hesitant in auto mode, like a lot of Mega Twin clutchers, but when it's so intuitive to take manual control, that's barely a foible. Sounds like we're back on the good stuff. What else? The ride is taut, but superbly controlled, and damp just so. Normal mode is the one for road use, though. Sport and track tighten up the movements even more, but there's just no need to, unless you're warping around a circuit. Brakes? Probably the only bugbear with the drive. The standard carbon ceramics have unimpeachable power, but the left foot brake-ready pedal is stiff and misses the feel of Porsche Aston brakes. It's the only element that the Maca struggles with in traffic. As a drive, there's simply no argument. The 570's Spider is the best drop-top super sports car in the world. Anyone at any level of ability could drop into it and have their mind utterly blown by its competence and the sheer quantity of feedback it offers. But it's not the most rounded, complete open-top supercar on the planet, yet.